and welcome back to Mixed Media Live. We're here for another fabulous Monday to start your week off talking about our favorite things, and hopefully your favorite things too. And what is Mixed Media? It's a weekly podcast happening every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time that focuses on the things that we love that are art-related, and that could be pretty much practically anything. So that could be business, philosophy, reviews, news, I don't know, anything you could possibly think of related to the stuff that we like, we talk about, which is pretty vague, but hopefully you can find something you like in our catalog. 99 Crime is in the chat. Sup, dude? He says, woo! And that got me hyped. So hopefully this will be a good show. So without further ado, we'll introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, and you can find my website at ariella.co.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. And speaking of 909 Crime, gotta shout him out and Rob Sharma for supporting us for $5 a month at mixedmedia.locals.com. If you go to mixedmedia.locals.com, you can also support us there. It really helps us out, keeps the lights on. As we get more support, and I see a lot more people, especially on Rumble, who are seemingly enjoying the podcast. Shout out to all you Rumble people. If you do enjoy it, I mean, the best and most helpful free thing you could possibly do is just hit the Rumble button. It's just hit the like button. It really helps. When we're live, we get on a live leaderboard, which is just ranked purely on views, and then you can sort it by Rumbles, right? So if you want to help us out, help disperse our show out to more people, hit that like button. It really does help quite a bit. But also, you can also join them at mixedmedia.locals.com. Link is in the description, and that really helps as well. So there you go. That's the housekeeping. How was your week, Nathan?
I've been sick, so is that. But other than that, not too eventful. I wasn't here last week because I was installing Linux on my laptop, so I'm using that right now. So yeah, it's been all right.
Nice. So I thought you decided against switching to Linux way back when.
I'm dual booting, so sort of. So I have a.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever mentioned this on the podcast. I have a weird setup going on right now because I was on Newegg, which is like for those who don't know, it's like a store for like tech stuff. And I was looking for an external solid state drive to put Linux on. Right. I was like, oh, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Carry a little drive around with me with Linux on it. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted it was for like development and stuff because Windows is painful sometimes. So yeah, but yeah. So I wanted to get a drive, and I was looking at like a classic, it's like one of the standard Samsung like external SSDs. I don't remember what it's called, but like it's like this is one of those like standard ones.
I have,
and then I saw
two of them.
Yeah. I was looking at the Newegg has deals of the day. I was like, what was this? At least it was in the deals of the day list. And there were two things that I saw. So one of them was an M.2 internal SSD, right, on sale. I was like, that's interesting. But I don't actually have space in my laptop. My laptop has one SATA slot and an M.2 slot, and they're both filled. So yeah, I couldn't I had to replace the M.2, which is like, I don't know, like that's a lot of work. I don't really feel like it basically to well, it makes things a lot more complicated too because Windows is on the is on the M.2, so I have to like partition things in some way or something like that. I don't really feel like thinking about it. So I saw an internal one, and then I saw on sale a what would you call it? A external dock for internal SSDs, M.2 SSDs. So I don't know if I can get on the. I don't know if I can get on the camera here. Let me see if I can try this. This brick has an M.2 in it.
It just looks like a heatsink.
Oh, because it is a heatsink. That is the purpose of the shape. Although it doesn't get it's like very rare. Like it's right now, it's literally like probably like room temperature. It feels like, Occasionally it gets kind of warm, but it never really gets hot. And as you can see, it's connected with just a USB-C to my computer, and so I'm running. Yeah, none of my internal drives are actually doing anything at the moment, so they're not useful. It is only external storage that's being used at the moment. So yeah.
Any like bottlenecking issues or anything like that, or
No, because USB-C has some crazy bandwidth, and actually the bandwidth is greater than whatever like the theoretical like read-write speed is of the drive itself. So yeah, doesn't actually matter. The dock itself actually has a bandwidth limit, which is lower than the USB-C's bandwidth. I believe it's higher than my M.2's bandwidth. I don't remember what it was, but like whatever it was, I was like, yeah, it's fine. It checked out. So yeah.
cool, sweet.
The cool thing is like it's really small relative to like an external SSD, which tend to be probably like more like like internal 2.5 inch like form factor sized or whatever, which is kind of wide. But this you can literally put in your pocket, and it's like just a big USB in a way.
Yeah.
So and it's it's 1 terabyte still though, so it's kind of crazy and way faster. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, for me, not anything really terribly interesting on the personal side of things. Started doing going back into house hunting. Looking at the local area because here let me give an advertisement for my hometown of my new hometown, maybe permanent, maybe temporary, who knows, we'll see. But of Mount Carmel, you can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, newly renovated, new kitchen for like $130,000. That's absurd.
I don't know housing prices, so that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing to me.
In Jersey, you couldn't get the same for less than $300,000.
Okay, I see.
So, yeah, that's a drastic difference. So, if you want to enjoy some ownership, as I've talked about on the show way back when, I haven't done an economics update in a while. I should do that at one point. But ownership. If you want to do well as an artist, especially, 99 Crime says 130K. That's actually incredible. Yeah. And if you're willing to put elbow grease into it, you could actually buy that same home that just is like owned by an old person, and like like it smells a little weird. The carpets need to be replaced. Like the appliances are like from like 1985. Like that kind of thing. If you're willing to put the elbow grease into it, you can find that same very house for $85,000. So sub $100,000 is pretty much impossible these days, anywhere in the country. And this place is safe, beautiful, and just awesome. So there you go. So yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on in my life. That would be of interest to the audience, at least.
Nice.
Any interesting news in the gaming world, or?
No. Slow news week, I guess, but nothing I know of really. It's all too interesting. At least I can think of at the moment.
Yes. For me, last week actually, last week I missed a news item, which was that Alec Baldwin had filed his response to the charging documents. It's just a formal letter basically saying, here's why you're wrong about probable cause, right? That's pretty much what it is. And you always file these things because it never hurts, right? I mean, the lawyers probably know that there's no chance at all, but you file them anyway because, maybe that once in 1,000 times, it happens. And then guess what? You don't have to go to do anything at all. Now you're exonerated. So, that's going to get slapped down by the judge, almost certainly. I have not read it, though. So I can't imagine what could be in it that would change my mind about the prospects, but I will read it, and I will come back to you later on a news update, probably about my thoughts about what's in it, probably because it won't be worth a whole episode just talking about that. So there you go. And the only other piece of news is that it seems as though the Joker film which was kind of its fate was a little bit in question in terms of the second Joker film, which is a Harley Quinn Joker folie à deux film, like going crazy together kind of a film. And also potentially a musical is what we heard, which sounded very strange to a lot of people, but made me ecstatic. You have no idea how happy that made me because, the first film was not the kind of film that deserved a second, and to make it something completely weird and different probably means that it's not going to just be like a continuation of the story. It's going to be something wild and odd, at least interesting, even if it's bad. um, So I'm excited for that one. But the fate of that movie, ever since what's his face, James Gunn came on board as the new director of the DC Cinematic Universe, or Extended Universe, or whatever the heck the name is. He was firing a lot of people. Fired Henry Cavill, fired Ben Affleck, seemingly, I think, as Batman. And is going through a lot of tumult over there, wants to make everything more like Marvel, which I lamented in our Discord at some point, and I think I mentioned before. But it seems as though Joker 2 will be spared. I keep seeing production updates, which is a good sign because James Gunn can't just he had this opportunity this whole time to be like, halt production, halt everything, we're gonna reevaluate everything. But instead, they've been marching on, which is a good sign. I also heard rumors, I'm not sure if they're confirmed or not, that Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn, which
I did hear that as well. Yeah,
sounds interesting. I'm still here for it. Like she was in A Star Is Born, which got a lot of praise. I did not see it though. But seems as though she's trying to get in her actress bag, more seriously now. So maybe it'll be amazing. But it seems like just on its surface a appropriate type cast there. So there we go. I'm excited for that. And I think that's pretty much it for me.
I do have something that's it's not really news. I mean, it's news. It's not big news, I guess. But it's just an interesting video I watched from a YouTuber named The Lunatic Lycan called Heroes and Generals Officially Dead. And a lot of people probably have no idea what that game is because it's not. I mean, it was. It peaked at 20,000 players. That's a lot of players, right? But that peak didn't last very long. And the game is relatively old, and it hasn't been around 20k players in a very, very, very long time. But I watched this video. If you don't know the history of Heroes and Generals, I'm not gonna give you the whole thing because the video does a better job than I can. First off, and it's way too long. The video is like 30 minutes. I'm not gonna do that right now. But it originally was a browser game, which, by the way, browser games back in the day, I'm sure were they were on their own tier. They were on their own tier sometimes. It was crazy. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know where they've gone. I don't know what's happening. But 3-dimensional browser games, dude, they were good. Not that being 3-dimensional honestly made them better, but just the idea, I think it doesn't exist anymore. I'm sure there are, but I don't think they're not popular, right? As far as I'm aware,
Unity browser die? Or Unity, their browser version die?
Unity had what they called Unity Web Player, which I think for security reasons they killed, and it got replaced with Unity WebGL or whatever it's called. It uses WebGL. I don't know if it's called that or not, but WebGL is I think it's web graphics library. I don't know. It's just the graphics library for the web. Yeah. So they have a thing. I remember with the Unity Web Player, I think you had to download a plugin or something like that to get it to work. Shockwave, yeah. if you guys remember that. Same with the Flash. I believe you also have to download Flash as a plugin too. I don't think it would just work out of the box. Although I could be wrong about that. But yeah, Shockwave was a plugin. I think Unity Web Player was also a plugin. And then yeah, but you can still do that in Unity. It's just not Unity called Unity Web Player anymore. I assume it's, I guess, more secure or whatever. The problem was fixed. I don't know. And as far as, I don't know if you still have to download like a plugin or something like that to get it to work. But yeah, those days were good. I mean, some of those games still exist. A lot of them died, unfortunately. Well, anyways, this one's about to die. That's what I was trying to say before. Basically, what happened is a little summary. So this used to be a browser game that I went to. It's on Steam now. I don't know if you can get it off of Steam as like on some other launcher, but at least it's on Steam. I don't think you can play in the browser anymore, as far as I'm aware. I just figure maintaining. That's just a big guess because I figure maintaining a web version is not very useful anymore at that point. If you're going to go on Steam or something like that. Yeah, so apparently the video, I mean, which I think it was a good video, but it seems to it just describes a whole bunch of mismanagement and being Danish. The company is Danish, which means that they don't make money, is what that means.
Okay.
And
wait, why does it mean that? Is it not translated into English or something, or?
No. It's fully translated to English. The issue is just like high taxes and high minimum wage is the issue.
Oh, okay.
Is that yeah, it's like if this company existed in like say the United States, they probably had a better shot. But they weren't doing like regardless of that. That was not like that was just one. That was just like a the icing on top, right? They're already like not doing very well. It seems like just as a company. By the way, Irving and I did talk not on the podcast about how we believe that custom engines never turn out well. They're never never. Okay, not literally, but it's like I'm just like statistically speaking. Is like usually they're very buggy if you make your own engine instead of using like some if you're making anything like larger scale like Heroes in General or something like that compared to like you're making like Tetris, like sure you can do that with that engine, but like if you're like this, maybe you want to use like Unity or like Unreal Engine or something. This they made their own engine for it, and it is very buggy. So there's that. A whole bunch of money poured into that. At some point, they made an update to stuff that they had to literally just like remove because it just didn't work, and then they added it back later, and it still didn't work. So that was cool. But anyways, what's happening is basically what the devs have said is you were done with this game, so they have some like Kickstarter. I don't know if it's on Kickstarter like .com, but it's some sort of Kickstarter type campaign where you donate money to them to fund their next game. And if it reaches that target, then Heroes Generals will be killed, and that'll be the new game. And if it doesn't reach that target, Heroes Generals will still be killed, but there'll be no new game. As far as I'm aware, I think they're asking for some absurd amount of money. I can't remember what it was, but I remember thinking that is insane, and they're not going to reach that. Is my conclusion. So,
have they ever thought about moving to the United States?
I don't know. I guess not.
Plenty of companies do that when they reach like some sort of critical mass and they're in some other country. Obviously it's hard to take a risk to change the country that you live in. And that's scary. But Rumble did it. Rumble is originally a Canadian company. Just this year, or 2022 actually, they moved to Florida. So yeah. And that was because they were hitting critical mass, and it was not profitable, nor like safe business wise. In terms of the government randomly adding some random regulations and eating them. So they moved, and now everything's Gucci. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see. Yeah, let's play.
Yep.
99 Crime says. Square Enix, I think, spent 13 years working on Luminous Engine, and it only got used for 2 games. Is it one of them? Well, actually, I didn't actually know this. But I looked up Luminous Engine, and it says one of the games is Forspoken, which is like a newer game, actually, I'm pretty sure, that came out. And I think it has okay reviews. I don't know. I actually don't know. I think it has like just like nothing crazy, but not bad, I've seen some footage of it. It looks cool, so there's that. But 13 years is crazy though for
that's
that.
So long.
But,
think about how the tech evolves like as you're making the engine.
That's true.
That probably continuously adds years.
2010. It's 2010, right?
Yeah.
13 years ago was 2010. At that point, Battlefield 3 had just come out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting. See, but the thing is with things like Frostbite engine, it's like it makes more sense because like continuously updated.
Yeah.
It's not it's been used in multiple
Well,
games. It's been tested.
Frostbite is even
You know,
is, but the thing is, they sell Frostbite too. That's the thing. It's like it's actually an enterprise like piece of software, unlike a lot of these in-house engines that just get used like for their own in-house like specific projects. At least Frostbite, it's being used on their stuff, but they also sell it, although they don't have the most customers. But you know, it makes sense. They have a product.
yeah, yeah. There's also I was thinking of something else that has a custom engine that Ubisoft. Ubisoft uses their own engine, but they use it for like all their games, and they have a lot of games. So I mean, fair enough. Um, I find that their games run really well. I don't know if that's
They're really well optimized. Like, dang, I don't understand
yeah,
why, but
yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. It's not just me that's experienced that. Yeah, I was like, why does this, why is it able to run like this at max settings? Yeah, and
yeah,
they look good too. They look good too. So, yeah,
yeah. Don't make your own engine. Just don't do it.
yeah. Usually not a great idea. It seems.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I have for pseudo news.
Sweet. Well, then, if you are listening in post right now, this is our new segment. We're gonna go on to talk about Ladybird and Berg, Ladybird. Unfortunately, Ben is not here, so it's our only other topic for today. So this is going to be a relatively short episode, especially because I didn't intend to talk about this for elongated periods of time. Just a few thoughts I had, despite the episode artwork saying complete breakdown. I accidentally left that in. Probably should have just said breakdown. But we'll be talking about Ladybird. I have a glass of wine. So if you're of age and you wanna grab a glass of wine and just sit back, relax, and talk about Ladybird with us, then yeah, I'll see you on the other side of this transition. So here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. This is our second segment of the day, and will be our second to last segment, because we have arguing with Reddit after this. Our one of two segments for today. Horrible start. And today we're going to be talking about Ladybird, which is a film by Greta Gerwig that was released in 2017. Very interesting film in a lot of ways. Won tons and tons of Oscars. I only saw it recently, so I saw it like a month ago or something like that. So because I saw it recently, I have a completely divorced take from what other people have said from the film. I have not once ever in my life watched a review of this film. I only know that it's well liked by a lot of people and won a lot of Oscars. The reasons I avoided reading anyone's thoughts or stuff like that is because I actually intended on watching it in 2017. Then I intended on watching it in 2018. Then I intended on watching it in 2019. And finally in 2023, I finally have had the chance to actually catch this film. And I'm glad that I did so. So I'm going to be delivering basic, outlines of my thoughts throughout this episode. But first, we got to reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. All right. So, Ladybird. Have you... Why did I keep saying Ladybird? I don't know why. Nathan, have you ever seen Ladybird, or...
I have no clue what it even is other than a movie. So
okay. It's a very impactful movie, I would say. At the time, I saw pretty much everyone making videos about it, no matter what angle, perspective you were coming at it as. Just even people who don't do movie reviews and stuff like that, they were posting videos about it. And I was like, this niche art film is getting videos made, like not like clickbait, like look what was in this movie craziness, like stuff like that, but like just like genuine conversation, which I thought was interesting.
When did it come out?
2017.
Okay.
Yes. And it's a film by a very, very young director named Greta Gerwig. And let me look up her age and hopefully not get depressed. I think she's in her
What?
30, her like early 30s or something. Let's see. She is. Oh no, she's actually in her late 30s. Okay, I feel better about my life. She's 39. At the time, I guess she was 34, which means I would have less than 10 years to catch up to her. Dang it. Anyway. But yeah, I mean that's relatively young for a director. You know, that's probably like the like career start age for a lot of like big time career start age for a lot of directors who last, you know, that don't just have one shot and then die. So you know, this was a very interesting and good first entry. And just like many, many first entries of a lot of filmmakers, it is heavily and obviously autobiographical. Because when you can write what you know it really well, you can tell it very passionately, and only you can tell that story, right? It's a good place to start, you know, if you're just getting your first big budget. Speaking of budget, we've got, and by the way, I haven't looked up, I don't know anything about Greta Gerwig, like at all. I feel like I know her a lot better after watching this movie, but I literally don't know. I haven't seen any interviews about this movie, behind the scenes. This is purely just watching the film and my thoughts coming out of that. So, you know, people who have interesting thoughts, you know, want to correct me on certain things, assumptions that I'm making, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear it, or just head over to our Discord. Okay, anyway, so speaking of money, the film was made for a measly $10 million. That is peanuts. Peanuts. That is incredibly small. But that's a typical first entry, you know, type budget, you know, so good on her. Apparently there's this is the only thing I know, by the way, because I went to Box Office Builder to grab this number, and there's a note about it. A lot of this was loans, $10 million. A lot of that was loans, so huge risk. Did the risk pay off? Yes, it did, because it grossed worldwide $79 million to date. So that's a multiple of almost 8. That's pretty good for a first film. You know, is it the most ever? No, but this is why movies make money, right? It's because you multiply. Your multiples are just absurd, where I say 8 is good, not like 8 is like record-breaking, crazy, whatever. Like, what else can you do in life that multiplies your money by 8? It's just a very high-risk game. So that's what it is. Okay, so it made $79 million, which, I mean, as a sum itself is not that impressive, right? You know, obviously, that's less than the budget of most blockbuster films. So, you know, that's not that impressive on its own. But as a multiple, good job. Okay. Now, what is the film? The film is, because it's so autobiographical, is a very Bill Dung's roman, I think is what you're supposed to say. Bill Dung's roman type story. You know what that is, right, Nathan? Or...
No. What is that?
A Bill Dung's roman is, I'm surprised you don't remember from, like, literature in, like, high school or something.
What language is that?
It's probably Latin roots or Greek roots. I don't actually know. But Bill Dung's roman stories are basically coming-of-age stories. So think of Catcher in the Rye. You read Catcher in the Rye, right? Catcher in the Rye.
No.
What?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
I've heard of it. I don't think we read it. No.
That's crazy, man. Is Nathan the only? I mean, am I the only one who has read Catcher in the Rye? Trying to think of some other classic Bill Dung's romans. If they come off the top of my head, I will say them later. But basically, they're coming of age stories, right? you have a 99 Crime says I've read some of the Rye long ago. Yes. A lot of these stories, not a lot of them, all of them revolve around growing up. And it doesn't have to be growing up in any particular age, actually. In fact, I haven't seen or read a Bill Doug's roman done in later life, like,
It's German, by the way.
Okay. Oh, that makes so much more sense, actually. I should have guessed that. It could be done, it could be like a story in theory, I suppose, of some 50-year-old, going into their 60s. And maybe that's like a midlife crisis type movie. Might end up being kind of like a Bill Doug's roman, depending on its style. But really, the idea of this kind of genre and tradition of storytelling is that the structure is progressive. It's very linear and progressive. So if you take something like A Hero's Journey, there's a lot of up and down and up and down, but these up and down movements are all climaxes. So like the structure of A Hero's Journey revolves around having these different beats in there that all have their own climactic build-up and payoff, which tends to not be that long. Don't write long payoffs, people. And they just keep building on that, and it ends up being somewhat linear feeling. A Bill Doug's roman tends to be linear in a different way, where the whole thing is kind of building up to some climax of learning, right? So like there's like lessons learned over time about life, and then there's some breaking point in there, right? So it's like when you finally become, grown, right? Or at least there's a huge aspect of yourself that finally changes and is mature. Or it could be the failure to do that. So Catcher in the Rye is a good example of the failure to do that, actually. Oh, what's that book called, The Tree? There's a tree in it. Oh, dang it.
The Giving Tree?
No, that's a children's book.
That's the first thing I thought of. Yeah, I just heard a tree, I don't know. Was a tree in it?
No, one of the characters' names is Phineas, I think. Man, what is that book?
Is that a movie or is it just a book?
A Separate Piece. Did you read that?
What is it?
A Separate Piece?
No.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, there are books. So I went to the I don't know how to pronounce this, by the way. So like, pardon my German here, but I went to the Wikipedia page for Bill Doug's roman or whatever roman, which by the way the plural is Bill Doug's romaine. I thought it was interesting, but I have read a few of these example books. So two of them in school. There's The Kite Runner and The Secret Life of Bees are the ones that are given. And then I've also read. Yeah, I've also read. What was the? Oh, I didn't watch this or read this, but Naruto was on this list as well. I have read Ender's Game. I don't know if this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ender's Game, and another one I recognize but I haven't read is To Kill a Mockingbird is also on this list as well. And The Catcher in the Rye is also, it's on the list as well.
To Kill a Mockingbird, that's an interesting example, because I was like, at first I was like, huh? And then I was like, oh wait, yeah, it's through the eyes of a child, and how that child grows through the example of their father. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. But, yes, absolutely, 100%. Oh yeah, Separate Pieces on this list as well, and The Catcher in the Rye, yes, okay. So I wasn't going crazy. Okay, but yeah, the idea, basically, again, like I said, is to show the character, or to explore childhood with a character with a specific set of circumstances that has to learn to grow in some massive way. And that massive way of growth is the way to maturity, the way to adulthood. But like I said, I'm pretty sure you could take the same concept and apply it to pretty much any age range, because we should always be growing, right? We should always be becoming more mature. Till we die. So there's that. So that's the type of story we're getting, but it's also a love letter to Sacramento. This director definitely grew up in Sacramento, obviously, as it's I don't know that, but it's very obvious in the film that she grew up in Sacramento. She loves Sacramento. She loves Sacramento so much, she disses LA. Which, as a filmmaker, that's you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to diss LA and say Sacramento's better. But I don't know anything about Sacramento. But the portrayal of the city or suburb or whatever it's supposed to be in the movie was very gorgeous. Just these beautiful suburban, luscious landscapes they're not the same as like your sort of like East Coast like cookie cutter suburb. They're gardens, you know, like they're beautiful, and not to overplay it, but that's the kind of language she's coming at the visual imagery of Sacramento with, is just this huge appreciation of how warm it is, how familiar it is to her, you know, how the people speak her language in the sense of, you know, culture, right? We all grow up in, not only like we think of culture in much larger senses than, I mean, there are microcultures. I mean, your own family is one tiny microculture, right? If you're married, you're just your relationship with your wife is one tiny microculture. So
she was born in Sacramento, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, pretty obvious. But she loves the heck out of her microculture, which is Sacramento. And that's going to be where she puts a lot of her cinematic emphasis, her visual emphasis is in what Sacramento means to her. So that's the two things this film is really about. We have a main character called Lady Bird who lives, well, her name is not Lady Bird. Man, I forget her name now. I'll remember it in a moment. But she wants to be called Lady Bird all the time. We are never given a reason, which is on purpose, why she wants to be called Lady Bird. But McPherson is the last name. I can't remember the first name. But this Lady Bird character, when we find her first, she's going off to high school. She's starting a new chapter in a new high school, which happens to be a private Catholic school. So it's it presents this idea of Lady Bird being an outsider to this new other culture that she's about to enter, this microculture of a private Catholic school.
This is very interesting because she was not raised Catholic, but she went to Catholic school.
Of course. Yeah, of course. That's very obvious when you when you watch the film. And this is going to set the stage.
At this point, reading her Wikipedia is just a spoiler for the whole movie.
Yes, like I said, it was obviously very heavily autobiographical. The time period works out right, that we're talking about. And, I can imagine a young, director growing up this way and having these formative experiences. And we'll come back around to that. But, let's see. So, we have our main character, Lady Bird, going to a private Catholic school, transition in her life where she's going to have to meet new friends, go into a whole new ecosystem. She's not Catholic herself, right? She's never been to private school, but her parents are sending her there, even though they can't really quite afford it. They can just afford it. They're sending her there because of the violence in her public school in her area, or at least one violent event.
Does she take on fencing at some point?
In the movie?
Yeah. Or like any sport or something? I
don't think so. No.
Okay, so it's not a one-to-one relationship with her life, but she did quit fencing because she can no longer afford it. So the barely affording thing seems to check out.
Yes. I totally believe her, by the way. Like, every part of this movie was me being like, I believe you. You know, like, when she's telling us, I grew up in a family that could barely afford it, but actually wasn't. Like, it's a proper, true portrayal of their life. It isn't just interested in playing victim. You know what I mean? Being like, I was really poor and I had to, like, eat dirt or whatever. No, they're not poor like that. You know what I mean? They just can barely afford to do more than, paycheck to paycheck, which is very honestly portrayed in the movie, which I really appreciated. So there was that, and I believe her. I believe all the experiences that happened in this film. Let's see. So where we go from here? Okay, so that's the backdrop. She has to make friends, and we get some typical high school moments, right? She finds her best friend, that she meets, who is not the most popular person in school, but she, is her best friend and is extremely loyal. There are the popular people in school who she does not fit in with, who are, just on a different social tier, and it kind of fits that mold of high school, but there's a reason why those tropes exist. It's because it's kind of accurate. I mean, high school is, kind of like that. Maybe a little bit of exaggeration here and there, but I mean, it's a big social hierarchy, pressure cooker, plus your future starts here, pressure cooker, plus, all the other pressure cookers that it is. That's why you get these types of tropes appearing in these films. Lady Bird herself is very interestingly portrayed. She's portrayed, and I assume the director is the same, as a shallow progressive, right? And I use that word because that's literally how the movie, I'm not trying to be polemic or anything like that, but that's literally how she's portrayed. That she's just a shallow. She's someone who reads maybe the headlines of articles and thinks that those headlines are representative of reality because she doesn't actually dive deep into those subjects. This will become very important later on when she has a huge formative experience with another shallow anarchist, a shallow anarchist kid who only thinks his thoughts are so deep, listens to these deep music, that kind of stuff. They think they're so cool because they're so deep and they understand the suffering of humanity, man, kind of thing going on. But they really know nothing about life. Nothing at all. They know nothing at all about life. Not the first thing of the complexity of any problem, right? That they talk about, right? She's sort of like the caricature of a young progressive. That's pretty much what it is. And this turns out to be extraordinarily important because we'll see how this juxtaposes with a bunch of different themes, and this will bring me to my main point. Because I don't mean to break this film down beat by beat. Like I said, I just want to point out a few interesting things. Postmodernism has been ruling filmmaking for a very, very, very long time. Postmodernism in film in particular, and we've talked about it on the show before, I don't think as a specific topic, but it's come up multiple times. But postmodernism in film is basically, if I could summarize it, is deconstruction for the sake of deconstruction, right? And it's deconstructing things on many levels. So it's deconstructing the typical moralization that happens in film. It's deconstructing the tropes that happen in film. It's deconstructing the typical story structures, like we've talked about many times on the show, like the hero's journey, or the Romeo and Juliet type story. There's always a subversion, right? The subversion of those kinds of concepts is kind of a very postmodern thing. Postmodernism has been around for a long time in film, and it's probably the most boring type of postmodernism possible. Because it, unlike in literature or in visual art or anything else, it is it's you take the deconstruction of postmodernism and you wrap it up in the most commercialized, sterile package possible. And it's like, wait, so you're not even going to be like genuinely postmodern? You're just going to like try to grift? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I already think postmodernism is boring in general, but then like you had to make it like excruciatingly painful by taking that and Disneyifying it, or like superheroifying it. But really, what here? I'll give you an example of the most and least postmodern film that I can think of, and that's because the book was very postmodern deconstructionist, but the movie kind of subverts the postmodernism, ironically. And it's a movie called Fight Club, which is a very famous movie, and highly recommend that movie if you can stomach it. 99 Crime says fake postmodernism, 100% fake postmodernism. So Fight Club is based off of a book called Fight Club by a very nihilistic postmodern type author. The book is great. I actually read the book for an assignment in class, but the conclusion of the book is radically postmodern, whereas the conclusion of the movie, which I will not ruin, is radically not postmodern. In fact, it is answering the postmodernists' deconstruction by constructing something at the end. Ironically, the author of the book said that he liked the ending of the movie better than his own ending, and that he wished he wrote that instead.
That is interesting.
He said it's so much less depressing, and my tiny brain at the time was too drug-filled to understand such things, which I thought was very interesting. He did a lot of cocaine in his life. But Fight Club, if you want to watch a movie that sort of has a postmodernist core, but answers that postmodernism so you can see the juxtaposition in one film, go watch Fight Club. You will understand exactly what I mean by deconstruction for the sake of deconstruction, yet at the end of that film, we construct a new reality out of that. And that, to me, was the most interesting thing that should ever have happened out of the postmodernist movement. What is the point of asking questions if you don't care about the answers? What is the point? A lot of people made a lot of money asking dumb questions that would have been revealed as dumb the moment they tried to explore the answers to them. You know what I mean? Like, if they had bothered to do the other side of the equation, it would have looked dumb.
I think there can be like just asking a question is not bad on its own, right? Because like it could be like even if you don't know the answer or
yes,
you have a lot of background noise, by the way. All of a sudden,
oh my bad, it's probably me drinking.
No, it was like a car or something or something like that.
My bad.
Are you on the right mic right now?
You might be hearing me through a different mic than what I'm streaming with. Let me double check.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Here, I switched it. Should be better.
Oh, that's way better. Wow. Okay. What was I saying? A question. Yeah. Because especially if you ask a question that, say, you don't believe other people are asking, but you believe is like an answer would be useful. And that could be useful, I guess. But like asking a question that is like kind of like, okay, everyone's asked this question before, so you're not really adding anything to the conversation here. And I guess I would say like, yeah, that's kind of a useless question.
100%. I agree with you. My critique is not asking questions that you don't have answers to. My critique is asking questions for the only purpose of asking the question is to ask the question. It's not to actually like want the answer. When you ask a question, what is this? How does this work in life? If we put these A and B together, what does it make? What is the meaning of XYZ? These questions aren't just supposed to be thrown out there and hung to dry but there's so many films that really do ask really good questions. But there are also films that just deconstruct just because deconstructing is the thing that we're doing in this era. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing it does is subvert, and it has no other point. There's no meaning behind it because meaning doesn't mean anything. A lot of people don't care about meaning. But the problem with that ideology, that way of coming at films is that the point of making art is to get at meaning. Like to me, that's fundamental. You know, if you want to go check out an episode where I talk about some fundamentals about life and art, you can check out the episode on transcendentals. But to me, beauty is inseparable from truth and goodness, right? Which have tangible realities. And we can talk about that if you want to talk about that on Discord. I would love to talk about those ideas on Discord because I think they're really core to me. And I think every artist upon deep inspection, could agree. Not will agree, but could agree, right? So my point here is that when you deconstruct for just the sake of deconstructing, you're just taking a hammer to the walls without any want to know what's inside. You don't even look, and you don't even replace it with something better, right? You just take the sledgehammer to things for no reason, just because. You are doing a lot of what postmodernist film does, basically. And this is everywhere, like I said. It's in Marvel movies, it's literally everywhere. It's just you have literally a one-liner to just subvert something. Like a lot of Marvel movies, they have serious moments, and then the serious moments are just completely undercut with this dumbest line possible. Just subverting the whole moment because lol, this is just a movie. Like, why do you think you're gonna catch some actual feels here? And I'm not saying that's what they wrote that down to be. I'm just saying that's the atmosphere. That's like our cultural environment. That's where we've ended up, and no one is critical. No one's thinking critically about what they're doing, and they just keep doing it. If that makes sense. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm going to be a postmodern deconstructionist and I'm going to write that into my Marvel film. They don't care about that. You know, they just want to do the thing that seems to get the seal claps from the people that are the loudest. Frankly, not even the most people, as we can see with their declining returns on investment. That's why something like Avatar, as I said on the Avatar episode, does so much better to so many more people because it has a structure that gets at meaning. You know, it gets at meaning. It actually cares about what life is about, right? Here's another example. Joker could be perceived as a postmodernist film. It's a film I really love a lot. And I might do a defense of that film because there's a lot of critics of that film that I think are whacked out of their mind. But that film could be perceived as very postmodern because it is concerned with deconstructing what we consider normal and what we consider to be real, like what are the bounds of reality, and I won't get too much more deeper than that. The important thing to know is that it's actually not, because it's still getting at meaning. It's not just deconstructing for the sake of deconstructing. It's asking, what do you think about this? What do you think about the deconstruction? It's almost like asking you about the act of deconstructing things to beginning, from the jump. Okay, back to Lady Bird. Lady Bird is what I would call one of the strongest examples of a postmodern film. What do I mean? Lady Bird the director's young, like I said, she's 39, right? That makes her, I think, technically a millennial. She's coming at this from a very different perspective than the postmodernist directors of Hollywood. Because she grew up watching them, if that makes sense. Because she grew up watching them, she is not deconstructing for the sake of deconstructing. She's going through the process of reviewing what deconstruction does to things. Subconsciously. So what do I mean by that? I mean, one of the core themes of this film is that just going along without a care for what is most important, or not even knowing where to begin with what's most important with life. Your parents don't teach you, the movies don't teach you, the news sure as hell doesn't teach you, your friends don't teach you. You have no concept of where to even begin. Because everyone's like, you need to get a job. You need to care about these issues. You need to care about that, and this and that, and everyone's pulling you and grifting off of you, really, right? Your whole childhood. How do you grow up? What is the result of not a care in the world for the true, the good, and the beautiful? Right? She is subconsciously making a comment, essentially, on postmodernism, in this film. Because her deconstruction is of her own life. You know what I mean? Like, she's deconstructing her own life. And instead of just deconstructing it just for the sake of it, she's saying, what did it all mean? What does it all mean about our generation? The young ones, that we grew up completely different from those other directors. This is the natural progression of film genre, right? Like, this is the ushering in of a new era, supposed to be. And I won't rant about Disney too much, but a lot of big companies out there are preventing this from happening. The natural progression of ideas and thoughts to go on from the boring postmodernism that plagues, a cinema, even to this day. Every freaking Marvel movie, Instead, it's more like, okay, we did the deconstruction thing, so what did it yield us? It yielded me misery. It's basically the answer, of this whole film. Okay, more specific. And this will probably be my final thought, because I didn't come at this from the perspective of doing, a detailed breakdown. So this will probably be my final thought. And I try not to spoil the film as well. The main character goes through tons of trials and tribulations, thinking that she knows exactly how her life should go. She has the dream of moving from Sacramento to New York City. There's a lot to say about that, but anyway.
This sounds reminiscent of a prior podcast episode. Okay, continue.
She wants to move to New York City because she believes that is where the real people are. The real movers and shakers of the world are in New York. And she couldn't possibly get by in Sacramento, which I think is a funny thought. But it's purposefully naive and silly. Like, even from the jump, because Sacramento's not a small place, you know what I mean? It's not like, it's not like there's no one, it's not like a town of 5,000, like I'm in right now, it's like, but she's acting as if it kind of is, if you get what I mean. That she's in the middle of nowhere, and that she needs to get to New York City. And she knows nothing about New York City except for pictures, practically. She knows nothing about it. She just knows that that's where she wants to go. Her parents don't give her, whenever there's issues between them and her, they're not resolved in the way that you would find in a 90s film. Right? I'm not saying those 90s films are realistic. I'm just saying they're not resolved in that way. In the sense that they're not resolved with a conversation sitting down and hashing out the hard parts about life and trying to come at some deep conclusions, right? They're hashed out in a way that's probably more realistic to our millennial, or Gen Z lives, right? They're hashed out in a what does it matter way, which is more like these questions don't matter, or these problems that we're having, we shouldn't go past the surface level. Because past the surface level are things that don't matter. Fundamentally. I mean, they might matter some, or little, or maybe we'll talk about it later. But really, they don't matter in a way that we should risk our hearts on those questions. Like, risk our peace, right? Risk our daily peace on questions of existential proportion, right? They're hashed out in this movie in a way that is, so how are you going to get a job? So who's going to get you into to university, you know? And once you got into university, you're a complete human being, right? That's somehow going to be the Bildungsroman of your life, is you going to university. Lady Bird ends in a way such that it... I'll try not to spoil it. Basically, she doesn't grow up before it's too late. It's one of the failure kinds of Bildungsroman, right? Where she has gone through the whole of her childhood. She's now 18 years old, meaning she could be tried as an adult and go to jail for the rest of her life. That means she can consent to sex. It means she can vote. It means she can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, right? You know, that have high impact on society and on yourself. Yet she still feels and acts and makes mistakes. Not everyone makes mistakes, but makes mistakes more like she was 15. You know? And she's trying to find fulfillment in places that she already knows she's not going to find them. But she does it anyway because she's gotten no pointers in her grown up life, that there are any other ways, paths, except for one thing. And this is where the postmodernism comes in. Her time in Catholic school is completely opposite to the way you would see that same very time portrayed in like a 2000s movie, which would be stiff and unyielding, which would be unwilling to engage. What's the right word I'm looking for? Out of touch. There's the phrase. Out of touch, you know, type of thing. The way she portrays her time in Catholic school, and I'm not going to go through the details of that's like 2/3 of the movie, but the rigidity provides structure. And you see how that's interesting as a postmodernism, as a critique to the prior, right? It's like, actually, these are the only guardrails I ever had. Actually, you know, I didn't grow up this way, but the nun that I talked to after school would talk to me about the deep things of life when my mom wouldn't. Even though I know my mom loves me, you know, and is doing her best. The nun is sharing parts of her heart in such a way that is dangerous for both parties, right? There's emotional risk involved, and they're willing to plunge into that emotional risk. And there's this beautiful symbolic moment at the end of the film. I'm not gonna. This is not quite a spoiler. It's kind of a visual spoiler, I guess, but it doesn't really spoil the film. Bless you.
Thank you.
But basically, the only thing that she recognizes in New York as something beautiful is the choir coming out of a church on Sunday, out of a mass. And the reason why this ever appeals to her to begin with is because it was the only appealing thing she ever knew, even if she didn't know that, if that makes sense. It's her realizing, I haven't grown up, but in relation to a transcendental thing, right? In relationship to truth, goodness, and beauty, I don't even know what those things are. I just know that I'm attracted to the finitude, the solidness, the particularity of those things are so much more real to me than my fake, vain, deconstructionist attitude towards life. That everything, I need to pretend I'm someone I am not for the rest of my life. Maybe that doesn't have to be. And for Greta Gerwig, I don't know what the answer to her life is, because I felt intense. It was intensely personal by the end. I was like, Greta, save these conversations for like in private. This is a little intensely personal, But you know,
I'm curious. How do you figure? What makes you think like when you watch this movie, like, yeah, this is autobiographical, and this is not just a story being told about, or yeah. How do you know this is autobiographical?
it's two things. It's the intense particularity of the events themselves. Like there are details in there. It's like I wouldn't if you thought of the typical that scene. Doing it in that way is like not really the way you would think of it, but she did it in that way because it probably happened at least to some extent, or maybe happened to her friend or something, and she wrote it as if it happened to her or something like that. Um, that's one thing, but two, the themes are way more like from a first person perspective, if that makes sense. Like it's like what does this character specifically think about life? And like every human being, they're not general, they're very specific, like for her it is the choir in the church specifically, and it connects back to a whole bunch of things in a way that's not like I'm writing a movie and I'm trying to like connect a whole bunch of images together to make a nice like visual interpretation of theme. It's like these things in life aligned in such a way that I understand how a specific person could get to that moment, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Um, and the dialogue is probably her voice because it sounds very particular. The way of speaking and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I applaud Greta for putting her heart out there in this film. I'm so glad it won a bunch of awards. I know there are a lot of people who have critiques from a lot of different perspectives about different aspects of this movie. I would just say that you need to come at this like an autobiography. It's not a movie that is trying to sell you on an idea. It is a postmodernist movie. It doesn't know the answers, but it's actually interested in it. Interested in the answers. It has been left alone, and grew up alone, but actually is curious as to what is good in life. And that's something to be celebrated. And that's to say, of course, if that were the only thing good about this movie, I wouldn't have given it a 4.5 like I did on Letterboxd. 4.5 out of 5. If that was the only thing that was good, but the color grading is beautiful. Cinematography is a little plain, but like very beautiful in terms of the richness of the scenes and stuff like that. Acting fantastic. Directing obviously was phenomenal. An intensely personal film, so I highly recommend it from those perspectives. Last thing, I'm pretty sure Ben posted a thing that he wanted me to read. Actually, Nathan, can you pull it up and read Ben's comment?
Sure. So, before the show started, Ben said, quote, since I won't be here... So, okay, wow. Already choked my words, nice. He said, quote, since I won't be there tonight, my quick thoughts on Lady Bird. Would have been a good short film, but was about 3 to 4 times too long and had too many characters and plot lines that could have been cut for the betterment of the film while allowing us to focus on what was the core idea of the film. Feel free to read that on the show. Okay, end quote.
Yeah. When I read that, I actually understand where he's coming from, but I think this is a property of Bildung's Roman, actually. A lot of people who read Catcher, I remember reading Catcher in the Rye in class, a lot of people are like, why are these random things happening? They're like, why are we going out with him on a trip, on a picnic? Like, why are these random things happening? Or I remember in a separate piece, a lot of people were like, why is he putting in every detail of this random trip to the beach? For this style of storytelling, because it's so linear, we don't get the up and down climaxes that typically mark acts, right? I mean, there are climaxes and acts in this film as well, but typically the climaxes are a little bit sharper when the acts are more distinct. When the acts are more distinct, when you hit the climax, there's usually a self-reflection you usually realize what the purpose of the act is, even if it's simple, right? So, like, and obviously you don't watch movie in acts like going, act 1, act 2, act 3. I'm just saying, this is not subconscious, that's not the right word, but, this is the way that it's hitting you, right? with a Bildungsroman, the reason it can feel kind of meandering is because every point, every little story we get is important to just the final climax. So you get all your little acts in there, but the acts themselves don't feel as defined or structured. So what your job is as the viewer is to reinterpret the prior film, the growing up story, in light of the moment of maturity or lack thereof. Right? I remember doing that literally in class, by the way. So it's not like this is a me idea. Like, I remember doing that in high school. I actually had good literature teachers, by and large. Just remembered a bad one. But I had, by and large, good good experiences in literature class. So I actually read those stories in really good ways where I understood that now that we've gone through this whole thing, now that the guy's leg has broken in a separate piece, right? That's like the climax, is his leg breaks as he falls off of a tree. The symbolism, but not just the symbolism, but the events of life that got everyone to that climax. What does that mean about childhood, adulthood, growing up, maturity, morality, and then the highest things? So I was lucky enough to go through Catcher in the Rye in that way. So that'd be my response to Ben. Is I understand, but I don't think it's out of bounds. I think it's purposeful. 99 Crime says W. Somerset Maughams of Human Bondage was kind of meandering too. I knew the main character better than I knew myself by the end. Ah, yeah. Isn't that beautiful? I think that's kind of beautiful, right? Like, I felt that way about Greta.
I looked it up. You go to the Wikipedia genre, Bildungsroman. Look at that. The book of Human Bondage.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
Also, I did look up the pronunciation as well. Like, it's close enough. Bildungsroman. It's not quite there. You know, it's probably the best you can get while using, like, you know, English sounds. So
right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of people who struggle with movies these days, who understand that they're being fed garbage most of the time and don't want to be fed, like, I recommend this movie, and I want you to meditate, you know, when you watch this film, not so much on the movie itself, but meditate on the industry, as I talk about so much on this show. Meditate on why it is that the natural outcome of one era leading to a next leads to a new interpretation of how to write stories, like this postmodernism. I don't know what it would be called, but you know, that we see in this film. Reflect on why you never see those films, even though she's 39. You know, it's not like she's like 15, you know, and these ideas aren't industrial age yet. But you haven't seen them. And,
well, I'm wondering what the average age of a director is, right? I mean,
it gets older and older over time.
Yeah, I don't think they're very young, generally speaking.
But I'm saying even the average gets older and over time. So
yeah, I mean, it's like it seems to imply, which I think would make sense to me, that there's like there's a big bottleneck to getting into the industry that isn't getting like alleviated ever.
Yes,
same old people around.
Yes, and this happened in the 70s as well. We had a lot of cultural stuff that also happened, and there was a lot more strangulation of. Not even a lot more, but a little bit more concern with monopoly. People liked competition more back then, just culturally, like people liked it, you know. And in the 80s and 90s, you had a independent film revolution where you had the new up and coming directors not going through the big studios like Universal, like Disney. They went through like these small boutique, you know, production companies. Let's see which ones exist still today. Nolan did. What's that one called? I can't remember. But those production companies actually gave the big boys a run for their money, and then they got bought out. That's how that ended, by the way. It wasn't because they got destroyed by the big studios making better money. It's because they sold off. So, you know, the bottleneck doesn't have to be there. And if you want to save cinema, as I always talk about, because it's increasingly scary to me as someone who wants to make films myself, you know, watch good stuff, support good people like this movie. I don't know what Greta's doing these days. I think she's an actress, so she's been in things. So I don't know what she's been doing, but hopefully it's good stuff, and support people who are making good stuff, basically. And that's what I got for this one.
Nice. That was a good one.
Yep. Yeah, if you have any comments, agree, disagree, leave them down in the comments, or head over. The best place, actually, is to head over to Discord. You can find the link to Discord in the description, or mixedmediapodcast.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. I know there are some people in the Discord who are already excited to talk about it, so I'm excited to hear their thoughts after they get a chance to listen to this. Okay. Well, after that subject, it's time to move over to our ever exciting Arguing with Reddit segment. So, here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome back to the Mixed Media Podcast. This is the gaming section. Today, I'll be doing Arguing with Reddit. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically where I'll be looking at some Reddit posts about video games, one of which Irving has chosen that I haven't seen before, and two of which I've chosen, and I'll be, reacting to them. I'll be agreeing or disagreeing with them, hence the name Arguing. Today, Ben isn't here. But normally there would be two hot takes that I have not seen before, and one that I picked for myself. And yeah, I guess on that note we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and a game developer.
And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, and you can see my website at ariella.co.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, I guess let's get into it.
Sweet. Just pulling up the link here. So this first one is from you, Nathan. It's the first one you posted, which is how to reward a player without making the game easy, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to start explaining while I pull it up.
Yeah. This comes from r/game design. I guess I'll read it out. I can't. I feel like I don't have to, but I couldn't remember all the details quite, so I'll just read it out. So here's what it says. Quote, a weird video game I'm working on has many unique one-time events scattered throughout, one for each new level, I suppose, that the player enters. These events tend to last approximately 40 to 120 seconds, and for various reasons. I cannot allow the player to attempt them more than once. These events precede the actual main areas where the main gameplay resides. I don't want to punish the player for failing these challenges. Failure is almost expected, but I'm not sure how to reward them for being successful. It can be assumed that players that fail most of these challenges are struggling at the game as a whole more than players that succeed. So by rewarding the better players with better equipment, tools, etc., I'm making the game much easier for the better players and not helping the struggling players at all, which is backwards from what the ideal situation is. What strategies can I pursue to incentivize a player to aim for rewards which don't actually make them any more powerful, or perhaps even make the game more difficult for them? Okay, so oftentimes when I lurk around a lot of like Discord servers too for game development, and I see a lot of people post questions and like things like this, asking for advice, and what are the always like? There's always like there's like two questions, right? Or there's always like the question that's being asked, and the question that I come up with is, "Why are you even doing this?" Like I'm just really very curious why this is happening. Now, a general rule of thumb is like if I decide to respond, like the question they're asking should be answered, even if like I'm skeptical that like that will lead to good things for them in the future. But if I am skeptical, then I might say like, but like, I'm curious why you're doing this, whatever, like, or like, if you're trying to do this thing, this might not be a great idea, whatever it is, right? A lot of times people just say, they don't answer the first question. They just answer like they just answer, or sorry, they ask why are you doing this? And it tends to lead to like, it's like they'll answer, right? They'll give you an answer, and then what? Okay, and they have to go on anyways, right? You still have to answer the other question, so it doesn't really. It's like, I guess if you anticipate it being like a bad idea, in which case like, I guess, but like, it just stalls. I find it's an unnecessary vetting that essentially makes things take a lot longer than they should be. But most things are probably fine. Probably enough for like, average hobby projects. Most of these are not going like AAA titles, right? So, but yeah. Anyway, that was that's a weird tangent. But yeah, I did. My question is why. But if we ignore that for a moment, well, yeah, if we ignore that, so I don't know if there's anything necessarily wrong with this scenario inherently. Once again, I don't really know why this is happening, so I don't have there's no full context here. But it reminds me of playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and there are these random events that happen. They're not one-time events; they happen over and over again. But these random events happen where, if you don't know, Ghost Recon Breakpoint is like an open world shooter game. And like, you'll be roaming around in the open world, you'll be in the middle of nowhere, and like, you'll be attacked. Like, you'll get like this thing that says, I don't know, some notification. I haven't played in a long time, but essentially you're being attacked by drones is the issue at hand, and they will destroy you 100% of the time as long as you're not like. I never got to the point of the game where I could actually destroy them. I don't know if it's like a very late game, or you just never can beat them. Pretty much, they are fast. You cannot escape them. Pretty much. There are multiple of them, and they have a decent amount of health each. There are also these groups of people, essentially. Well, if you're familiar with the Ghost Recon franchise, or even X Defiant, which I think most people don't know what that is, but if you know what that is, you know who the wolves are in Ghost Recon, and yeah, they are also terrifying as well. Although they don't tend to just show up randomly, you tend to have to provoke them. You can run into them on accident, but it tends to be a provoked thing. But anyways, how did I feel about the random drone attacks that ended up being brutal? It always felt like, this is unfair, right? But at the same time, it was like giving me like a taste of like what could happen. I couldn't beat them. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't beat them. Not today. Like not today. Not tomorrow. Yeah. Like it's gonna, it's not gonna happen soon. But it's like, this is a goal, right? One day I won't get murdered by these things, right? I think in the moment I wasn't really thinking about that, thinking like that, in the forefront of my mind necessarily. But it's something that like afterwards, right? It's like that was how I was feeling, even if I didn't realize that time. That it was like kind of exciting in a way. Like when it happened, I was like, dang, okay, not this again. But at the end of it, it was like, okay, I got to get to a point where I can defeat these things, And so in a way, it was actually kind of a motivating factor in a game that I'll say actually has fairly little motivation to progress, except a story that is not great necessarily. It's not that interesting. It's just like, it's very, very basic, and it's like, yeah, it's just the story isn't a main driving force for me. So yeah, I think it was actually helpful in that way. I don't know if Ubisoft intended that. I don't know why they did that. It's a very strange idea. Strange like this guy's idea, I guess. Maybe they were big brain and that was their play the entire time. Maybe that was not their intention, but it worked out that way. I don't really know. But there's at least some anecdotal evidence to say that it's not always a bad idea. I think like the second reply or something like that, it was like, yeah, this is like a bad idea or something like that. And I was like, maybe not. Now, to actually answer the question at hand, is how you reward the player without making the game easier for them. You can look at other games, right? I don't mean to be like some condescending. It's like, you're not really honestly, this is like the least interesting part of the question, is actually answering the question. It's actually a fairly simple question to answer, because you can just look at other games. It's like, well, what are rewards in other games? The classic reward is beating the game, right? So there's that, right? So Now, assuming these things aren't required, it seems like these things aren't actually required to beat the game because they're only one-time events and they pass. So beating the game is not a thing. There are things like collectible items that you can get sometimes that don't necessarily affect your performance in any way, or affect your performance in more, a relatively negligible way, or maybe in a not so negligible way, but it's nothing crazy, right? It makes the game easier, but not that much easier, or like essentially a badge of prestige. Now, I feel like I would get roasted if I went to like a game developer conference or game design conference to say, and like I said this, but there's like these like. Yeah, people talk about this a lot. These 4 different types of players of games, and I can't remember what they are. So my bad. But it's like one of them is like people who play games because they enjoy like the accomplishments. Some people enjoy like the grind and stuff like that. I would advise this person looks towards that and sees what motivates people essentially. So yeah, I guess essentially there'll be the 4 motivators of game developers. If someone knows what that is, please enlighten me. I actually forget. But it's one of those things where like it definitely is really common for people to talk about it. I just don't remember. But I don't know how like true it is that everyone fits in one of those 4 boxes. I assume it's something like more like a spectrum where like some people enjoy the grind somewhat, but in certain circumstances they might be more of a achievement type person or something like that. But yeah, so I would look towards that. But yeah, I don't I'm not sure. See, at the start I said I wasn't really sure why this happened, and to explain my confusion, it's like that does sound like a lot of effort to put in a game for like not much. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is a lot. Maybe it is very enhancing. Maybe it's very low work to actually put whatever's in the game, right? Yeah. So I don't know. But, yeah.
99 Crime says from Google, there are 4 player types according to Bartle. I guess that's some scholar. Socializers, explorers, achievers, and killers. A gamification environment may consist of all or any combination of these types.
Right. I think I described an achiever, right? Someone who wants achievements. Oh man, I feel like these names aren't very like. I feel like you might say like a socializer is like one who enjoys like the community aspect of the game. I don't remember if like the names are very representative, to be honest. Okay. I looked it up as a Wikipedia page called Bartle Taxonomy of Player Types. It's a classification of video game players, in parentheses gamers, wow, based on a 1996 paper by Richard Bartle, who is a British game researcher in the massively multiplayer online game industry. Okay. And so here, let's see. They have the little descriptions. Okay, achievers, also known as diamonds. These are players who prefer to gain points, levels, equipment, and other concrete measurements to succeed in the game. They go to great lengths to achieve rewards that are merely cosmetic. That's interesting because merely cosmetic, but also things like concrete measures of succeeding in a game. So that doesn't seem to be only cosmetic, right? Like I assume that would mean that achiever would be happy to play like Warframe and like grind for like +1 stat to like damage like that, right? I assume that would be considered an achiever type thing. Explorers, dubbed spades, for the tendency to dig around, are players who prefer discovering areas and immerse themselves in the game world. They are often annoyed by time-restricted missions as that does not allow them to traverse at their own pace. They enjoy finding glitches or hidden Easter egg. Okay, I see. I don't know how you necessarily appease explorers in this very time-restricted one-off mission that does not let them go at their own pace, so perhaps this is not the game for them. Socializers, there are a multitude of gamers who choose to play games for the social aspect. Okay, it actually is just that. Let me just skim this kind of longer. Game is merely a tool. Yeah, the game is merely a tool. They used to meet other in-game or outside of it. Once again, I don't really know how this is going to fit. Maybe this is bad advice. And the last one, Killers, has no description on Wikipedia. It's just more motivated by power gaming. What does that mean? This is a Wikipedia article on power gaming. Is the style? Oh, it's optimization. That's what it is. Okay, so getting good essentially is what they are. That is actually the Ghost Recon experience, right? it is the appeal of getting good, essentially. That struck me there, I guess. So I'm not really sure how you can. Yeah.
So I play City Skylines a lot, right?
Okay.
I don't know where. I have no idea. I'm like, the closest thing I can get to is exploring, or maybe achieving. I don't really know.
What do you do? Because I assume there are many things you can maximize your efficiency, right, or whatever, stuff like that, right? Like, what is your goal? What types of actions yeah, what are you trying to do? I guess.
I'm trying to build something I'd be proud of. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, but okay, what makes you proud, right? Because it could be I'm assuming. I don't think, based on what I've seen before, that you'd be the killer type for City Skylines, where you'd be I gotta try to figure out how to get the most tax money out of these people or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what, some people, that might make some people proud, though, right? So what does that mean for you?
I guess it's for me. My particular goal is to make something very highly detailed and realistic, but I don't know how to categorize that. I guess it's an
it's
achievement.
Clearly not socializing, right? Well, achieving would be getting the items, cosmetic. I don't know,
but nothing in game motivates me. You know what I mean? It's not the in-game stuff that motivates me.
I mean, that's fine. The thing is, I think, for example, with Killer, right? Maybe because motivated by power gaming. Okay, for a high score. Well,
what is a Lego builder? I guess that's kind of the same thing, right? Lego building or any builder game, honestly.
Or sandbox game, yeah. If you're playing Minecraft, right, and you're not trying to speedrun or something like that, you're just kind of messing around, building cool stuff. What does that make you?
Yeah, maybe an explorer. I really don't know.
Well, an explorer, it says, and immerse themselves in the game world. And they're often annoyed by time-restricted missions. That would make sense for something like that, right? You wouldn't want to be.
Oh, I would hate it if you. Yeah, and I want no time constraints whatsoever. I'll work on the city for years.
Explorers will often come aboard. They will, but it says they will tire quicker than other gamer types, and feel the game as one chore to play. But it seems like they make the game a chore. It seems like to me. Achiever may quickly forget a gaming adventure. The explorer will recall fond memories about their experience. This seems very sketch. I don't really know what to say about this. I don't know. I don't know if back in 1996 City Skylines was out here, So,
certainly there was some builder or something,
Well, it says that the classification originally described players of MMORPGs, so I wonder if this does not really apply very well outside of that. But I have seen it applied, though, definitely to just everything. So I don't know if this is that's a poor method. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. So what about that would get you killed, though? You said that it would get you killed if you said something at a game conference? I don't know if I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said I didn't know what that was.
Okay.
That stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, so they have expanded. So Richard Bartle has also created a version of his player type models that included a third axis of implicit/explicit, leading to 8 player types. So if you are a explicit achiever, you are a planner who sets their own goals and aims to achieve it.
Oh, I think that's literally perfect.
Yeah, as an explicit achiever. Versus an implicit achiever who apparently be considered an opportunist. They look around for things to do, but they don't know what these are until they find them. That's okay. That makes sense to me, actually. Wow. Okay. Explorer, explicit. They are methodical. And they're okay. I gotta read this later, but yeah, that's interesting.
That was cool. I learned a lot from that one.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So this next one comes from me, and I'll attempt to speak while I pull it up, although that's difficult sometimes. But basically, it's a leak from r/gaming leaks and rumors that talks about the leaked budget for Horizon Forbidden West of 110 million euros, which apparently is about 118 million USD. 99 Crime says, been filling it in while y'all were talking? Filling what in?
Been filling it in while y'all were talking. I don't know.
Well, let me know what. Or maybe the first message was censored because YouTube does that. It just deletes things sometimes. I never know when because it doesn't tell you. Oh yeah, my other message didn't send. Don't mind me. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically that's just the rumor. I just thought the price it was interesting because that would be not considering that gaming is like like for it to make games, it requires such a much larger staff and development time than a movie does. I'm always surprised when I see budgets that small. To me, I mean, it's not small. That'd be like a Marvel movie.
that is very big though for game. Like for game, that's still big. That's actually like massive. I'm pretty sure. Like not massive, not like it's no Star Citizen to be clear, but it is it's still massive. I'm on the list of most expensive video games to develop. And Wikipedia notes that this list is incomplete as of March 2014. Okay, well, okay. I don't know how up to date they have Cyberpunk on it though, so it at least has that. Maybe missing things here, so take that with a grain of salt. But number one is Star Citizen, who's the only game on this list whose year of release is to be announced. That is crazy, and they're number one. The game is supposedly unreleased still, not fully released. All right. Yeah. Take a guess. How much money did they? It gives you a lower bound. It says something plus. So what is that number
for Star Citizen?
Mm-hmm.
It's been so long, man.
Let's say so. Star Citizen has been crowdfunding started in 2012. So you have about a decade of funding.
Yeah.
Wow, the yearly rate is still crazy though. Wow, that's crazy.
Back when one of the I followed literally 5 YouTubers because I never hit the subscribe button, and one of them was Sidestreif, and he used to play the early access.
Oh wow, that's a does he still make stuff? That's just
he's only a Twitch streamer now.
I just remembered some news actually. Oh, this is kind of sad, but sorry, this is kind of sad. But I don't know. Have you ever heard of Neebs Gaming?
No.
Do you know the Battlefield those old Battlefield cartoons? You know what I'm talking about? Battlefield Friends. That's what it's called. Battlefield Friends.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know who Thick 44 is?
No.
I can't remember which character he was, but he passed away. Was it this week or last week or something like that? It was some illness. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it had been cancer or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Crime says the YouTube to Twitch pipeline is real. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of really old YouTubers. I'm like, do they still upload? Then I go back and I'm like, they only once a month post some excerpt from a stream so that you know that they're a Twitch streamer now.
Yeah, Yogscast Hannah does that. Who is no longer named Yogscast Hannah, because I believe she's not in Yogscast anymore. But yeah, Sidestreif, his channel is up. Oh, the last video is 3 years ago. It's kind of sad, because I just kind of I'm not gonna watch him, right? To be clear, it's just I don't know, it's just I don't know, it's just kind of sad. I don't know, it's an end of an era, even though I wasn't there. I was not there for years of that era, but
yeah.
But oh no, actually he just streamed. Yeah, he streams. Okay, he streamed a year ago at least. So
yeah. Any other thoughts about the budget? Oh wait, no, I never guessed the number for.
I didn't really give any thoughts either. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna guess 280 million.
You are low.
Okay, so I wanted to know whether or not it was something like that. So now I'm gonna go okay, I'm gonna say 400 million now.
You're still low.
Wait, did they hit the half billy mark? They hit the half billy mark. Did they hit 500 million?
That is for you to guess. I don't really know.
I'm gonna guess $500 million.
Pound is $501 million.
These guys are high rollers. Oh my gosh. That makes Star Citizen inherently worth at least $500 million. In terms of, sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's actually
not quite.
Not technically
you can burn money in a weird way, right?
Yeah. Well, they could have burnt money in a way that didn't actually do anything.
Yeah. Like a way that really depreciates like fast or something like that, or yeah.
Yeah, but 500 mil as a lower bound. Wow,
As a lower bound,
that's insane.
500. But think who still at this point, who is still like, you know what? They just need another million. Like
I've seen more people talking about it recently. I have.
Why? Look, I don't know, dude. It's like I don't know, because like, do these people? I actually don't know too much about Star System. I'm wondering, like, they're just paid for life at this point? Like, are they just like is this just like the scheme? Like I don't know if they're like, oh, just like is it, this is their job essentially, is to make unfinished game? Is this like because they don't make money anymore when the game's finished, right? Like,
I mean, the thing is, they've transitioned, I think, their marketing to be like, this isn't going to be an ongoing creation kind of like development, like it's never going to be finished. But my problem with that aspect of things is you have to give me tangible markers of like finished segments. You know what I mean? Like, because the game has to be playable while I'm alive, right? Like, I'm not here to to pay for a game that I'll never play, or is like half playable.
They released. I remember this. They released a whole new game. They released Squadron 42, which is a single player game set in the same universe. I don't know, like, bro, finish the first one. What's going on?
Yeah, very overpromised game with extremely beautiful graphics. I will say it is a beautiful game, but there's nothing to. I mean,
I wonder, is it a custom engine?
It's Frostbite.
No, it's not.
It's Frostbite.
No, it's not. It's not. It's
not Frostbite.
It's Lumberyard, which is forked from CryEngine.
Oh yes. I did remember. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow, that's crazy. So they averaged 50 million lower bound, 50 million per year. 50 million per year. Do games even sell that much? Like normally, like that's crazy. Wow. Anyways, number 2 on the list is note that the list is not updated, but this doesn't make sense. Number 2 is Cyberpunk 2077. $331 million. That is also crazy for a game that was broken on launch.
But to me, it makes sense for games to cost like above $200 million to make, like a AAA, like huge experience like that. Just because like the literal amount of man hours compared to film is probably like double at least. Like from my imagination, I'm thinking of like just programming alone is such an exorbitantly long.
A lot of these big companies outsource a lot of these things. Like so, it's cheap, cheap labor a lot of times.
That's true. You can't really outsource a crew.
yeah, not very easily. It'd be a kind of complicated endeavor.
Yeah.
But for the $200 million mark, so inflation adjusted, there are only 4 or 5 games that have surpassed $200 million that are known, that are on this list, inflation adjusted, over $200 million. I said 4 or 5 because Final Fantasy 7 has a range, and the range goes below 200 million or above it, so unclear. But yeah. So we're just talking about how much is this? What is this Horizon Forbidden West? And it was
118 million. And a lot of people were like, wow, that's a lot.
Because it is a lot, yeah. 118 million. Where's that put us on the list? Let's compare. 118 million inflation adjusted will get us Battlefield 4, almost exactly. Which, geez, I did not know it cost that much money. Whoa. I mean,
it makes sense to me, honestly.
But you think about its predecessors, Battlefield 3, and this isn't the biggest gap in Battlefield games. You know what I'm saying? This is not like a, I don't know. It's not like a grand reworking of the game. I wouldn't expect it to be that crazy.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Genshin Impact. What the heck? $100 million? Man,
the app. Yeah.
Well, it's also, you can play it on desktop too, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Witcher 3, $93 million. Grand Theft Auto 4, $126 million for comparison.
See, GTA 4 only costing that much is insane to me. That sounds like it should cost way more money than that.
Well, 126 plus. That's the lower bound, but yeah. That is kind of wild to me. Um,
And they've made billions of dollars right off GTA, so they've definitely multiplied their money.
oh yeah, sure. Rift was 72 to 84 plus $1 million. Rift, fun fact, Rift. I found this out today. Actually, Rift's company, well, former owners, Tryon Worlds, went bankrupt at some point. This is a long time ago. If you don't know who Tryon Worlds is, they made Rifts, they made Trove, they made Defiant, one of them. They made Arcade. That's the thing they're known for as well. All those they don't run anymore. They went bankrupt. They were bought by like GameAgo or something like that. Some company I've never heard of. I think it's GameAgo, and then they got disbanded. Something I want to say about that. It kind of sad because I used to play Trove back in the day. It's like it's kind of like Side Strafe. It's like I don't really know. Like it's not really affecting me personally, but like it still feels kind of sad, I guess, in a way. But yeah. But anyways, to actually finally get to the Reddit post. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of money. I don't know that much about the game. It looks pretty good. I'll say that. The other one, Horizon Forbidden Dawn, won a bunch of awards, so they're definitely doing well for themselves. So, I mean, who makes it? Who makes this game? I actually have no idea.
I don't know.
Guerrilla Games. Who are you? What is that? What is that? I don't know what that is. Guerrilla Games? They made Shell Shock Nom 67. What? They made Killzone. Okay. And the Horizon series. Interesting. But they're published by Sony. But yeah, I don't really have an opinion on this one because I just don't know. I don't know much about the game, but okay. I'd say I mean, it's a very long way of saying yeah. Okay, sure, maybe. I don't really know.
Cool. All right then. This last one is from you.
Oh wait. Letter on Crime said this is a while ago. I missed it. Today's stream motivated me to make a Letterboxd account.
Oh wait, did they say that on Discord or something?
Yeah, in the Film Media channel. And he also posted a Borrow quiz. I'm gonna repost this in the chat. Borrow quiz in the gaming channel.
Sweet. Hey, our Discord's lit. Gotta go join the Discord. But hey, follow me on Letterboxd, everyone, at IGAROX @IGAROX. So yeah, cool, very cool. Makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So this last one is from you, and you can go ahead and explain.
The last one is also from r/game design. It's titled "How Long Should Death Take and Why?" All right, so I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but essentially it's just saying in some games, when you die, take I don't know why it's the first thing that comes to my mind. The World's Hardest Game. I think it's called. Where when you die, you kind of respawn instantly. Pretty common in ragey, arcadey type games like that. I think he gives the example of Super Meat Boy. I think is the example where you kind of just respawn pretty fast upon dying. And there are other games where you die and maybe there's a whole loading screen or whatever, or a whole animation that plays, and it takes a bit more time to get back into it. We talked about Breakpoint earlier. There's a whole loading screen in Breakpoint. It's not an instantaneous, back. I remember. I don't know why it's also coming to mind. Skyrim. I don't know why. That's so random. I haven't played Skyrim in a long time, but yeah, there's a loading screen there too. I'm pretty sure. I think because this loading screen is very memorable because it has a little it says something. It has a little 3D thing. Anyways, but yeah. So some games are instant. Some things take a long time. How long they're taking? Why? Obviously, this is a game-to-game type thing. It's going to depend on the game. In the case of Super Meat Boy and other ragey type games, rage-reducing games, I understand it because it keeps up the intensity in a way. I think it's a lot of it is pacing, right? A lot of it is okay, when you die, are you getting right back into the action, or are we taking a breather? What's the play here, right? Obviously, in some cases, you might not have a choice like Skyrim. It might have literally been like a technological like thing, right? It's like, okay, we actually need to like reload this game. Like we can't like, we can't just like instantly put you back in, respawn you or whatever. And so it can serve as both. It could be like convenient, like, oh well, we kind of want you to cool down anyways, and we have to load anyways. So I mean, it just kind of works out. Sometimes it might be like, oh well, we literally have to do a loading screen here, and so sometimes it's like, we don't need to do a loading screen here. We just want you to take a breather. And if they don't choose to do that, it might be because of preferring a keep up the pace, especially games with rapidly retrying over and over again. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like death is something that is like a topic that isn't talked about much in video games. Like, in a broader sense, the game over screen, I guess I should say. You don't necessarily need to die, I guess, in whatever game you're playing for it to be over. But it tends to, a lot of times in games, I see when we play, it's fine because there is not really a game over screen. You just go back in. But in other games, it can either be too long of a wait where the intensity just it can feel weird, right? I mentioned this before, Tomb Raider, where it's like you're in the middle of this action, intense music, and then you die. And then it's like you respawn, everything's peaceful. It's like, what? This is such a weird, like, it's like the intensity shift from like, I don't know what to say, your primal instincts of survival, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
To like, I'm just standing here, it's fine. It's like, what? It's like in real, like, obviously, it's not real life, but I wonder if it's because in real life, if you're in a situation like this, where it's like, imagine like all the danger goes away. You're still going to be very tense for a moment, right? Even if you know you're safe, maybe adrenaline's pumping or whatever, right? And it's still pumping. There's never going to be a moment of like, imagine like adrenaline's pumping and then the adrenaline is sucked out of you, like forcefully. It's just the effect is gone suddenly in one fell swoop. The moment danger is gone, it's just gone. That doesn't happen. That's weird. Even for non like adrenaline things, just like normal emotions, I don't think they tend to swing like immediately. People tend to get angry, for example. It might take you a moment to cool down. It's not like you're furious because someone hit your car, and then it's like, oh, I saw like a dog, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, I like maybe you forget about it for a moment, but I don't think you'll generally just never revert to that state, Yeah, so death is something that is kind of strange. They didn't really talk about that much in games because I feel like it tends to be a very jarring thing in games that have longer waiting periods for after death to restart. I understand why it exists a lot of times, as I said before, for tension relieving moments, but like it's like there's no cooldown. It's just like tension gone. I don't know how to fix this per se. There's some clever things you can probably do with like, okay, what if like in a Tomb Raider type game you have it so that when you're close to death, it gets a little bit easier or something like that. Like the enemies kind of like become more stupid or something like that, or they have less health suddenly, even though the player doesn't realize this. And essentially, it sort of scripts its way into a sort of easing of death, right? So that when you do die eventually, the tension wasn't like there's like 9,000 people around me and I'm like fighting for my life. It's like you kind of already accepted your fate, but it's like not as like it's not as hectic, or something like that. But I understand that would add a lot of overhead and stuff like that, and probably be a big pain. So yeah, hard issue to solve, but it definitely depends on the game, how long you want to do these types of things, and technological limitations. But yeah. I it was a slow Reddit day today, I'd say, because I didn't want to respond to this one because I was boring, but I couldn't find anything.
No, I thought these were good, honestly. I thought these were super interesting.
I guess that's good to hear.
Sweet. Well, that's our last one. So take us out.
All right. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to check us out, to follow, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever platform you're on right now. Check out our Discord, where you can, as we've stated before, best place to contact us to get a sort of a more personable conversation going. Go to mixedmediapodcast.com. You'll find a link to our Discord there. I think that's all.
Also, shout out to 99 Crime, who's been in the chat with
Right.
us this whole time. What a G.
Yeah.
If you want to join him, definitely visit the live streams, because it's tons of fun to have people talking with us as we're talking. But also shout out to him for also supporting us on mixedmedia.locals.com, as well as Rob Sharma. They're the real ones out there. So if you want to join them, mixedmediapodcast.com, there's a link there to join them.
Yeah. And if you want to see my my results for the Bartle test, I'm not going to tell you on the podcast because you got to see it in the Discord server. Okay, so you got to come here. Got to see the Bartle. I think I'll probably say on the podcast anyways, but just pretend. We could do the Bartle quiz, and yeah, that'll be interesting. So yeah, and with that, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Look, tell a man no trouble, I don't want beef, man, I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We back, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or